mentality, you will find thriving relationships. And so even relationships are restored and are held up by a servant's mentality. As Christ begins to expound on offenses, he begins to talk about 4 laws that are in Luke 17 verses 1 through 7. If you've got your pen, you might want to write down these laws. The first law is that leading someone else into sin brings judgment. In verse 1, he said it's impossible, but that offenses will come. But woe unto him through whom they come. The Lord was talking to his disciples, and he warned them to guard against this grave sin of causing others to sin. He warned them, no sin will be condemned more than misleading others into sin. Now, mind you now, the Lord said it's impossible, but that offenses will come. What he was saying is that sin is inevitable. Sin is going to occur until the Lord comes back. Once sin was introduced into the world through the original sin of Adam, it's going to continue until the Lord comes back and set this thing straight. So don't look for your friendships or your relationships to be engaged through people who are sinless. Don't expect others to be perfect when you're not perfect yourself. Oh, I wish I had somebody. Well, look, in Jesus' words, it's impossible, but that offenses will come. Sin enters the world through the business environment. Sin enters the world through the office environment. Sin enters the world through the marketplace, on the playing field. You got somebody who's not satisfied just hitting somebody and wrapping them up, but they want to punch them in the eye and hurt them. Sin enters the world through the club environment, even in the home and in the church. Don't you fool yourself. Everybody that shows up for Sunday school isn't seeking to serve the Lord. Jesus had 12, and one of them was a devil. Hello, somebody. Sin is everywhere. Sin is everywhere. But don't let that be an excuse to live in sin or to be satisfied in sin. Somebody will fool around and tell you that you can't help but sin, and so you ought to just not even try and go ahead and live however you want. God forbid, and the devil is a lie. It's God's will that we walk free from sin and walk worthy of a volition wherein we're called. God called us to be holy, and there's no other standard that's acceptable to God besides our holiness. No place escapes sin because no person is perfect. It doesn't really matter what church it is. Jones Memorial, Maxon Memorial, Antioch Cathedral. You can get in your Pontiac, get on your scooter and ride to Dallas. You'll find sin in the potter's house. Nobody's exempt. Committing sin is a terrible thing in the eyes of God. But leading others to sin is even more terrible. The word offend, Jesus talks about, but that offenses will come. But woe to him through whom they come. He said it's better that a millstone were hanged around his neck and he were cast into the sea. The word offend means to be a stumbling block. A stumbling block is anyone who seduces others into sin. I'm grumbling and complaining, so I want you to grumble and complain. You can't be my friend if you don't do what I do, even though we both know it's wrong. I'm criticizing everything that's happening, taking sides against others, being worldly and materialistic, so I want you to criticize and be worldly